Hello everyone. So I'd like to welcome you all to another chapter of the Python beginners tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 16 where we'll be learning about tuples. Okay, so inside tuple we will learn that how you will be able to write a tuple, how it is different from a dictionary, from a set and from a list. Okay, so we will learn about different kind of methods which you can also put inside your tuple, like it will make your programming a much stronger one. Okay, and it will help you once you are trying to do long projects. Okay, so we will not waste much time over here. We will learn all about tuples over here into this particular chapter. So let's get started. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now I'm here again in the same project where I'll be creating up a Python file. So let's right click, let's click on new, and from here I will just click on a Python file, and I'm gonna name this one as tuples. Okay, and .py, as this is a Python file, and let's click enter. And over here I do have the Python file where I will start executing my code. Okay, so over here now we need to understand that what is a tuple. So in our previous classes we do have learned about list. So tuple is also a place where you guys will be able to store different kind of data. Okay, so this is also a data structure like list, but this one is basically immutable. So what do you mean by immutable? Let's say if I create a variable and inside that variable, anything which I store is not mutable, or it is not modifiable. Like we won't be able to assign any other value once I create that tuple. I won't be able to assign any value inside to any other item. Let's say I won't be able to add anything, I won't be able to delete anything, or I won't be able to replace anything inside a tuple. So you guys will understand it in a better way if I show you guys an example, and if I show that how you will be using a tuple and how to basically type out a tuple. Okay, so first thing first, now let me find out a variable that I can use. Okay, so let's type city underscore names. Okay, that equals to, and we already know that once we were creating list, we do have used the square bracket. But when we are creating a tuple, we need to make sure that we are using the parenthesis. Okay, so I'll just use the parenthesis and let me just write few of the city names. Okay, so let me just first type New York, comma, double, let's type Dublin. Let's come here and let's put comma again. Let's give it up a space, open double quotation mark, and let's try Chicago. And let's give it up a space. And again, let's open the double quote. And over here, let's type New Delhi. So this is the capital of India. So I'll just give it out a comma, and again I will open my double quote, and let's type Amsterdam. Let's give it out a comma, let's give it out a space, open the double quote, and let's type Moscow. Okay, so I'll just come here and I will just type Moscow right over here. So as you guys can see now over here, I do have defined all of this item here. I do have 6 city name, and now if I do want to print this one out, let's click on enter, and I can just type print function, open parenthesis, and now I will just type city names, And once I do have this, if I run this particular code, you guys can see I do have all of this right over here. But before, we have already seen that if you want to change anything, okay, let's say if you want to come here and if you want to change any item inside, I need to make sure that I do provide their index number. Okay, so the index number of New York is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so over here, you guys cannot modify. So you guys will understand it in a better way. Let's say if I just come here and if I just put out this variable, and now let's open the double square, and let's say I want to change the Dublin. Let's put 1. And after that, let's come here. Let's give it up equals to sign. Let's open the double quote. And over here, let's type Las Vegas. Okay. And now you guys will see that when I try to execute this particular code, here it will show me an error. Okay, so over here you guys can see now once I'm trying to run this particular code, here it shows that tuple object does not support item assignment. So this one is immutable. So just understand this particular term, mutable and immutable, because when you're working in Python or when you're working in programming, you guys will hear this particular term a lot many times. Okay, but over here now, let's say if this one was a list. Okay, let's open the square bracket on the sides, and I'm just changing this tuple to a list. Okay, and as you guys can see now, the Dublin will change to Las Vegas once I run this particular code. Here you guys can see it do have changed. But once this is a list, it won't be able to reassign any items. Okay, so we need to understand that this is one of the main usage of tuple. Okay, so inside tuple we need to make sure that we store the items which are unchangeable and which I don't want to change as well, because sometime by mistake I might change something and I may lose that particular data. So once you put that inside a tuple, that particular thing is not supposed to happen. Okay, so you guys can just print your tuple. Let's say you guys can come here, and also you guys can print down your tuple quite well. Let's come here. Let's just delete this one. And from here, if you want to print one item, or if you do want to do the slicing as well inside this, you guys can also do that. Let's say I want to print 0, the New York. Okay, so I can come here, and here you guys can see I can only type New York. And after that, if you want to print the index number 3, and if I just run this, here you guys can see now I am able to only print New Delhi or the index number 3 item. Okay, so we already know about indexing, and over here we can also do the slicing. So it works just the same way how it works in list as well. Okay, so let's come here, and over here let's say from Dublin to New Delhi I want to print. Okay, so over here now I will just provide the index number. I will just put 1, and as you guys can see, this is 2 and this one is 3. So I will just put colon 4. Okay, so let's come here. Let's put colon 4. And now if I just run this one, let's say here you guys can see I do have Dublin, Chicago, and New Delhi printed over here in my console. Okay, so you guys can come here, and with negative indices you guys can print as well. As you guys can see -2, which will give me the value of this Amsterdam. So let's run this one, and here you guys can see Amsterdam is getting printed. Okay, and now let's come here, and over here now if you want to print from start till Amsterdam, just you want to leave this Moscow, you guys can come here, and you guys can first put on the colon, and you guys can check that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I need to make sure that I put 5 right over here. And you guys can see once I run this one, till Amsterdam is getting printed and it is just leaving out the Moscow. Okay, so over here you guys can actually do that, and also over here you guys can just print it in a reverse position as well. Okay, so if you want to print it in a reverse way or slices it into a reverse, you guys can just put a double colon, and after that make sure to put -1. And if you run this here, you guys can see now Moscow is getting printed first, then Amsterdam, and last we do have the New York. Okay, so let's come here and you guys can just delete this thing up, and from here now this is how it actually works. Okay, and also if you want to print it in separate lines, let's say I want to print 0 over here, let's click on Control C, and let's come here, Control V, Control V, Control V over here, Control V again. Let's click on Enter, Control V right over here. So let's put 1, let's put 2, let's come over here, let's put 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so now if I just run this code here, you guys can see I do have all these city names in separate lines. Okay, so this is how you guys can also print. Totally depends on the way I want it to view. Okay, so this is how you guys can actually work with all of this right over here as well. So now inside a tuple, we will also see different methods used in tuple. Okay, so let me just delete all of that. Let me come right over here, and let's say I want to count how many times one particular thing I do have over here. Let's Control C, let's come here, let's give it up a space, and I'll just click on Control V. Let's give it out a comma, let's give it up a space, Control V again, let's give this one a comma, and Control V right over here again. And also let's come here and let's come here, let's just decrease the space from here, and also let me just choose this one, and I will just copy this one 2-3 times as well. Okay, let's come here, let's click on Control C, and let's place it Control V, let's give it up a space, Control V as well. Okay, so over here you guys can see that so many times I do have New York right over here, and so many times I do have the word Chicago right over here as well. Okay, so now using few of the method, we will see that we will be able to count that how many times I do have this particular word inside my tuple. Okay, so for that, just type print, then open your parenthesis, write the variable which you want to access, and after typing your variable, use the method dot count. Okay, so make sure to use this method dot count, then open parenthesis, and after that open your double quote. And now first I do want to see that how many times I do have the word Chicago inside. Okay, so for that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here, let me just give it out a space, and now I will just type Chicago. Okay, so make sure that your spelling is correct, which is matching the spelling which you have inside your tuple. Okay, so let's type Chicago over here, and now let's see that how many times I do have the word Chicago inside the city names variable or city name tuple. So here you guys can see it shows me the count of 3, and the same way you guys can do it in for multiple words. Let's say Control C, let's paste Control V over here, but instead the word Chicago, now I do want to type New York. Okay, so here you guys can see it will assess first that how many times I do have the word Chicago, then it will come down and it will see that inside the city name tuple I want to see that how many times I do have the word written New York. So now let's run this code, and here you guys can see 3 times I do have the word Chicago and 3 times I do have the word New York inside. Okay, but here you guys might be thinking, but it's not like that, because New York I do have here as 4, because it is showing you 3 times, because here you didn't put comma. Okay, if you don't put comma, it will understand, or Python will understand, that both of this is just one item. Okay, so now if I just come here and let's say I will just put a comma, let's give it up a space, and now again let's run this, and here it shows you now you do have the name Chicago 3 times and you do have the word New York 4 times. Okay, so make sure that each character, whatever you put right over here, is well defined using a comma, and if that is a string, it is well defined by a single quote or a double quote. Okay, so the index number or the indices also work in both ways, in positive ways, which starts from 0 to on the right hand side, okay, for the positive numbers, and from the left hand side, like from the right hand side, if you want to go to the minus, it starts from -1. You guys already know about index numbering. Okay, so I won't go through that one. And yeah, I hope you guys are clear about the first one which I have. And also now, if you do want to see that, as you guys can see over here, now I do have the word New York multiple times. Okay, and also I do have the word Chicago multiple times. But if you want to find that, okay, first in my list over here, or in my tuple, where was the word New York or the word Chicago was mentioned. Okay, so if you do want to check that one, you guys can come here, let's put Control C, again let's put Control V, and I will just type New York over here again. Okay, so where this one first appeared, so it will just show you guys the index number. Okay, so as you guys can see, for New York it will show me 0, because over here the first word I do have is New York, okay, inside my tuple. And over here for Chicago, this is the first index number, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here you guys can see 5, so it is supposedly to show me 5. And the method which I'm gonna use is dot index. Okay, so I will just type dot index right over here, and the same way I will type index over here. And if I now run this code, let's say I will just run, then here you guys can show me, you guys can see that the New York shows as 0, and for Chicago the number shows me as 5. Okay, so here you guys can see in my tuple, the first time the word appear New York is in the first 0 index number, and the word Chicago appeared in the 5th index number at first in my tuple. Okay, so you guys can find or do the indexing from here as well using the method dot index. So yeah, I hope till this much you guys do have understood. And now we will also learn that inside a list you guys can have multiple tuples. Okay, so over here now let me just type this one as tuples, and let me just give it a space, let's go equals to. And now if you don't want to create up a list, you need to make sure that you do create up a square bracket, and inside the square bracket what you guys can do is you guys can now open up a parenthesis, and now let's say you want to put out some number, let's say 4 comma 5. Again, let's come here, let's give it out a comma. Now let's again open parenthesis, let's go with 6 comma 7. Then I'll just put a comma again, let's open parenthesis, and now over here I can put 8 comma 9. Okay, so let's come here, let's put 8 comma 9, and as you guys can see over here in this particular tuple, or here this, I will just type list underscore of underscore tuples. Okay, so here you guys can see it's a list of tuples, and this is basically a list. Okay, So over here inside this particular list, I do have multiple tuples. And here, this is what you guys mean that you guys can actually print multiple of this. Okay, if you just come right over here, let's put print, let's open parenthesis right over here, and now let's type list of tuples. Okay, and over here you guys can basically access each one of this. Here you guys can see I do have three set of tuples. Okay, so over here if you want to access it, you guys can come here and you guys can access it. Okay, let's say if I want to replace this whole box of tuple, you guys can do that, but you guys won't be able to change the thing which is present inside the tuple. Okay, so if I want to come here, if I want to change the whole tuple, I can come here and I can just put out their index number. Okay, let's come here and let me just put that inside the list of tuples, I want to change the index number 0. So let's open out the square bracket. Let's put 0. And over here now equals to, let's put 2 comma 3. Okay, so you guys can also do that. Now let's click on enter, and now let's click on print, open parenthesis, and over here now I will just put out this variable which I have. And now if I run this one, here you guys can see now the 4 comma 5 is being replaced with 2 comma 3. Okay, so inside one list you guys can have multiple tuples, but inside a tuple you can't have multiple lists. Okay, and that is modifiable when it is inside a tuple, like when it is inside a list, but it is not modifiable what you have inside a tuple. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys to have understood this class on how you will be able to work with tuples and how important it is. We do have also learned that how you will be able to have tuples inside of a list, and then you will be able to modify it, because a tuple by itself is not modifiable, like it is immutable. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're gonna learn more about Python and its working. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.